Hi guys, we have made it to another miserable hot summer day here on the Rock in Austin, Texas, and since I can't decide which rant to do today, I guess I'll do two. And let me start out, they're completely unrelated. Well, nothing is unrelated, but these are fairly unconnected dots. I believe in these two. So my first rant, I guess, is going to be one of these crazy whacked out conspiracy theory rants for anyone who wants to listen to the ravings of a conspiracy factist. You're welcome to hang around for a few minutes. If not, if you don't want to listen to anything that us whack job conspiracy theorists have to say about things, you do so at your own peril. So anyway, this rant specifically is about a YouTube video that I saw last night that about the RFK, the Robert Kennedy assassination, and about the Jonestown massacre that tries unsuccessfully to connect the dots between those two events, in my opinion. But before I get into this rant, guys, I have a disclaimer to make. And so how am I going to make this disclaimer? Because yesterday I had a video about my last word on the doot, and I want to make it clear for the record that the rant I'm getting ready to say is a total coincidence about the timing of me watching this video, and it in no way, shape, or form changes one word that I said yesterday from this very rock about the events in Doot, in which that idiot Alex Jones claims Doot was, the victim of some sort of doot by the federal doot. And so anyway, you can watch that video if you really care. But I just want to make that clear that this is completely unrelated, has nothing to do with this. Although Alex Jones would certainly claim that this video and the events of last week are very much related. I reject that notion 100%. So anyway, the title of this YouTube video, which I have posted on my favorites and I'll put a link into, is called RFK Assassination, MK Ultra, and Jonestown. And apparently what it is, or at least the first half, this is an hour and 16 minute, I'm sorry, an hour and 27 minute video. At least the first half, the section dealing with the RFK assassination, was an old documentary called Conspiratus Ubiquitous. Which it appears to me to be some, I don't know how old documentary that they dug up from the Superstation files, which I believe was Ted Turner's, the forefather of CNN, but that might not be correct. I'm thinking this is from Ted Turner's old files. And this is about conspiracy theories. This one's centering on the JFK, the RFK assassination in the first half, and then it goes on and switches gears into the Jonestown. So I will take these one at a time too. So guys, I have often said, including yesterday, and many times I have gone over and over and over again about the preponderance of evidence. Before I will consider a conspiracy theory a conspiracy fact, I need to see the preponderance of evidence, to use a little discernment and critical thinking. Well, guys, I have to eat some crow here because I must say the RFK assassination conspiracy fact, I don't need a preponderance of evidence to conclude that the RFK assassination was a conspiracy, and that just the notion that Sirhan was some whacked out lone gunman like dude on the face of it is absurd. To claim that Sirhan was not part of a wider conspiracy is an absolutely ludicrous and absurd statement, which I reject on every level without having to even look at any supporting evidence claiming that that Sirhan was not acting alone. The guy clearly to claim that Sirhan single-handedly masterminded the assassination of Senator Robert Kennedy just a few months before he most likely would have been, brought into the White House. To claim that that was not a conspiracy is just so ludicrous and so absurd, both to my right brain and to my left brain, that I don't need to see a preponderance of evidence. Now, for the record, I don't even think Alex Jones, in all of his insanity, has ever proclaimed. Now, I might be wrong about this, but I don't think that even Alex Jones is claiming that Sirhan was not the actual guy who pulled the trigger. Okay? Clearly, I believe this. I assume Sirhan believes this. Although he claims that he has no memory of the shooting, and I tend to believe the man on this one, that he had no memory of the shooting. Sirhan was the guy who pulled the trigger, the bullets of which killed RFK. He doesn't deny it. His lawyers never denied it. So Sirhan, yes, was the trigger man. This is a hell of a lot more firm in pretty much everyone's opinion than the fact that a horseshit story about Lee Harvey Oswald, who clearly was not a lone gunman 5 years before when they killed RFK's big brother, JFK, but I'm not going to get into that conspiracy fact about the JFK assassination. This is the RFK assassination. So guys, I don't even need to see any preponderance of evidence. There is nothing you are going to, what I need to see is the preponderance of evidence that Sirhan on his own concocted this entire scheme that put him alone with JFK, put him in the same room with nobody else in the room. Guys, all I need to say is if they will assassinate President John F. Kennedy in the broad light of day, in a limousine in the middle of a crowded street in Dallas, Texas, broadcast live on national TV, which is exactly what happened, they sure as hell aren't going to have a problem with hatching a conspiracy that puts Sirhan alone in a hotel kitchen with JFK. I have no problem with this. I have a huge problem without looking at any evidence that the guy acted alone. Pull your head out of your ass if you still believe that Sirhan had no other people a hell of a lot bigger than Sirhan putting that gun in his hand, loading it, and sending him into that room. So I'm assuming the conspiracy theory angle behind all this, and the one that is tried to be painted here in conspiratous ubiquitous, and I'm assuming this is Alex Jones's basic tenet, is that Sirhan was somehow hypnotized. He was brainwashed, mind-controlled, hypnotized by the CIA. And he was just, in effect, a pawn of the Central Intelligence Agency's brainwashing program. And guys, I'm not going to throw that out. It makes more sense to me than he hatched this scheme and pulled it off on his own with no help from somebody else. I don't know. That makes more sense to me without taking the time out of my life that would be necessary, that I am unwilling to take out of my life. What I must say here is, that this video did nothing to connect the dots between the CIA and the RFK murder. It completely failed. If that was its intention, at least the first half of this video before they got into the Jonestown stuff, which I'll talk about in a minute, if that was their goal in releasing this, they failed miserably. There is nothing in this video to, I won't say nothing. What it did, I guess, prove to my satisfaction was, yes, the CIA or others did have the ability in 1968, and you better believe they have the ability in the year 2012 to brainwash, mind control, hypnotize people into assassinating a U.S. senator or a president. It did give some convincing evidence of that, but there was absolutely no evidence presented here that these two things have anything to do with each other. To someone with any sort of discernment and critical thinking. And this goes back to the thing I have said over and over and over again. Just because the technology exists to do something does not mean that that particular technology was used in a certain event. You know, I go on and on. I have to say, you know, about that we have had the technology to blow up this planet with nuclear weapons since at least 1945, and so far, at least, we have never used that technology. And I would make the same argument here. I use the wet dog analogy about global warming a couple of weeks last week, but I can use it right here about the RFK assassination. The wet dog of RFK lying dead in a hotel kitchen with Sirhan sitting there with the gun in his hand. Yes, the dog is wet. But if your dog has been out of your sight for a few hours and shows back up at your house wet, that does not mean that he was rained on. It could mean he was rained on. That does not mean he went swimming in the creek behind your house, although that's most likely. You know what I'm saying, guys. Cause and effect, even if you can demonstrate a potential cause. So I'm not saying they're wrong here, guys, all right? I'm not rejecting this. I mean, it is within the realm of possibility. You cannot rule it out. But this particular documentary was not the preponderance of evidence that I needed that the CIA brainwashed and hypnotized Sirhan into murdering, assassinating RFK. So they failed. And so I will shut up here. I've made my point about RFK, that he was clearly part of a bigger conspiracy. I don't know who it was who murdered the guy, and I'm not going to take the time out of my life to find out, simply because I don't need to prove to my satisfaction that the guy did not act alone in the murder. So anyway, halfway through this, or probably 2/3 of the way through this, they completely switch gears they leave RFK, and then they bring up this whole story of Jim Jones and that bizarre mass suicide, the Jonestown, whether you call it mass suicide or massacre, that happened back in November of 1978. The dot they try to use in here is the CIA in general, and specifically a mind control program that I do believe was very much in operation in 1968 and 1978, and probably in 2012, called MK Ultra. So this is the dot they are using to connect these two seemingly completely unrelated events, and I will say they failed. They did not meet this conspiracy factus level of preponderance of evidence, but I will give this documentary a lot better marks for the second half about the Jonestown massacre. And I've done quite a bit of research, or so I thought I had, about the Jonestown massacre, but I went away from it, just chalking this one up to a lone whack job, just as I have chalked up I always just assumed that the Reverend Jim Jones was just a mentally ill, just a whack job, just completely a messed up on every single level. But I did have some aha moments. What this documentary did for me, did accomplish it, at least it made me question the official story, which surprisingly I have just bought about, and I am, I will not say convinced, but I certainly had my mind open last night that Jim Jones definitely had a CIA connection. And apparently this I found out on there's even a Jonestown conspiracy page on Wikipedia, which I'll also give you this, that Jack Anderson and other mainstream media people were reporting on this decades ago, but the mythology that has survived here in 2012 is the basic official story that he was a lone whack job that convinced 900 people to commit suicide down in the jungles of Guyana. There was enough evidence presented. If you're interested in enough of this, you should read the Wikipedia story first, and then at least watch the second half of this YouTube video. Clearly, there was a CIA connection, and I'm embarrassed at myself for just swallowing this official story. And the connection here is a fellow named Dwyer. I believe his first name is Richard. I think it's Richard Dwyer. But Richard Dwyer was clearly a CIA agent. There's no doubt in my mind that Richard Dwyer was a CIA agent. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Richard Dwyer was in Jonestown. 100% preponderance of evidence that he was in Jonestown on the day of the massacre, a few hours before the massacre, because there's a film surviving to this day that's shown on this thing that shows Richard Dwyer at Jonestown. And where you see him in this film, if you recall, there was, whether you do or do not, there was a Congressman Ryan from California who was murdered there on the airstrip. Right before he left, he was gunned down in cold blood right there on the Jonestown airstrip. Him and several journalists, the congressman and several journalists, were gunned down in cold blood. The entire thing, the video still survives to this day. You can't argue it. And what is also on the video, what you see is, you see this Richard Dwyer, clearly a CIA agent, Richard Dwyer, before the gunmen appear. I mean, a few seconds before the gunmen appear on the scene and start shooting into the crowd of people boarding this plane, you see Richard Dwyer make literally a stage right exit. Richard Dwyer runs off. He has full knowledge of what's getting ready to come down when this U.S. congressman was shot down in cold blood. He gets the hell off the scene, okay? And a few seconds after he's gone and gotten his fat ass out of the way, then the gunmen appear in the, this is all on film, and they get off, it's actually a trailer being pulled by a tractor, and start gunning down the crowd of people, which had included this Dwyer fellow seconds before. And this is when Congressman Ryan and these other guys were killed. And then what is broadcast is as this, quote, mass suicide was going on, the very last tape that you ever hear Jim Jones's voice, at least according to this, and I think this is probably true, is Jim Jones saying to get Dwyer out of here. He says Dwyer's name 3 times in this tape. Clearly, this Dwyer dude, or somebody that Jim Jones clearly believed was his buddy Dwyer, was very much in the company of Jim Jones as these 900 suicides or murders were going down. He was still there. And I didn't realize this. I guess I had Jim Jones confused with his idiot from Heaven's Gate, that thing that happened back in '97 with that UFO cult. I had always thought, or I had it mixed up in my mind, that Jim Jones supposedly also took the strychnine poison in the Kool-Aid, but no, he was killed by a gunshot. This was actually, I guess, reported in the official story that Jim Jones did not drink the Kool-Aid that his 900 followers either voluntarily or more likely involuntarily took through means of hypodermic needles. He was shot at close range with a small caliber handgun, whether it was suicide or someone close to him, or as this documentary does not come out right out and say, but was either killed by Dwyer directly, or it was a CIA hit, at least on Jim Jones himself, if not the entire 900 people. I do not believe that the CIA was directly, it was CIA agents going around poisoning these people who refused to drink the Kool-Aid, but there is evidence that Jim Jones himself was a CIA hit, although I would need to see a lot more, and again, I'm not going to take the time out of my life to follow this much further, but it makes a hell of a lot more sense that the official story of Jim Jones single-handedly convincing 900 people to poison themselves with, you know, that is a ludicrous notion, and I can't believe, I'm embarrassed to admit that I swallowed it. And so I'm just going to close this rant with my view of the CIA. And I admit I have not spent much time out of my life studying the CIA. Here's the ham-on little-tail, Humpty Dumpty tribe's overall judgment of the CIA. I will say this. I do think the CIA is one of the most corrupt, evil organizations on this planet that is involved, whether it's MK Ultra or whatever. That the CIA is just up to more no good and evil shenanigans than my guess is 90%, if not 95%. Of Americans have any clue they're up to. They are up to no good. Okay, guys, I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like I even know the level of no good they're up to, but they're up to shit, as I say, that the vast majority of Americans have no clue. The shit that their tax dollars are going to fund in the CIA. And with that being said, I will take the other tack now, that the CIA is not up to the shenanigans that I would say, I'm going to guess 5 to 10% of Americans are claiming that they are up to. That Alex Jones and these other conspiracy theorist nutcases, there's probably somewhere in America someone who believes that the CIA shot Bambi's mother. Somewhere there's someone who honestly believes that the CIA was behind the assassination of Bambi's mother. And that there's plenty of whack job conspiracy theorists who are pointing their finger at the CIA, where the CIA had nothing whatsoever on any level to do with it, and nowhere is that more important than and with that, I will wrap up this rant from the shallow end of the doomsday prophecy pool and come back at you in a minute with a story a hell of a lot more important about global warming. Bye, guys.